I mean, the reality is that everyone kind of like thrives off of cheap labor. These big companies, like,
Yep.
so I mean, it's just kind of like restructuring everything. From the bottom line to the higher management. How they run these companies or how everything is going to be ran the whole country. Because I mean, it's a bigger problem than just what we're stating. Obviously, like it trickles down to so many different people, way to like the beginning, like just getting your CDL, like that's, and I don't know.
The numbers don't lie. The average rate for truck drivers today is half what it was in 1980.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
bogus.
even rate wise, I was quoting lines, X amount of dollars, back when I started 23 years ago, right? And I would ask sometimes the drivers, how much does this line pay? Some of them are even less than what I was getting 20 years ago.
Yeah.
That's sad. That's
Not
sad,
not
man.
more, not the same,
They get
less.
less. Yeah.
And then stack inflation on
And
that too.
and diesel fuel was about $2. Now it's $5. Insurance rates was about $2,000 a driver. Now it's almost $6.
the overhead just keeps like
Yeah.
getting higher and higher, like raising, and it's just like the pay is not, it's declining. So it makes no sense. That's why so many people are out
That's how the rich
of
stay
the
rich.
business.
You know what I'm saying? The rich got to stay rich some type of way. So I feel like, man, with these companies, with these big bonuses and all that they actually get at the end of the year, after drivers don't work their butt off and all that, man, dish that money out to the drivers. You'll have more, trustworthy and good people that's going
Right.
to stick with you.
Yeah, but the big money never trickles down to the
They
bottom
don't.
line.
No, so don't. So
So Justin, you were saying that you and your friends were pulling some data of like how many new trucking companies are. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so this guy that's in the news now, Mr. Singh from India, I don't think people really have a grasp of like the full scale of the problem that's happening in trucking. Most people when they think of truck driver, they think guy who looks like me, or guy who looks like Q. Where the cultural image of like what a truck driver looks like is we're like 90% of the industry. That is not the case today. In a very short amount of time, we've had these insane numbers coming in through like ethnic cohorts out of California and Illinois, where the issuance of non-domicile CDLs in Illinois is, I think, like 60% of all new CDLs issued last year in Illinois are non-domicile CDLs, and those are guys that are coming in from the Eastern Bloc. Chicago's been for the longest time. It's been a known, just shady freight area. You got guys that run these Russian crews. They can edit your electronic logs.
Yeah, I've heard that.
They can
I've
just run you
definitely heard
forever.
the Russians.
Well, this is how they get their drivers. And I think this new order from Rubio, where he's canceling all the work visas. I think those guys are going to be in trouble with this going forward. But when we look at California, it's a different ethnic cohort. It's all the Indians out there, guys from the Punjab region, and they are just taking over everything. You have Indian truck stops, Indian trucking companies. Since 2018 to today, there are over 15,000 trucking companies registered to the last name Singh. Compared to, let me pull up my chart here.
It's a lot of trucking
Oh,
companies.
it's huge,
15,000.
huge. So, Singh, you have 15,694 trucking companies since 2018. Second place, Rodriguez, with only 5,904. So you have 3 times as many Singhs versus Rodriguez's starting trucking companies.
Well, you also have 1 billion worth of Indians, also, and not
Exactly.
even 1 billion Hispanics.
But not all bad for Whitey here. Smith, 5,267. So it goes Singh, Rodriguez, Smith, Garcia, Hernandez, Gonzalez, Martinez, Williams, Lopez, Johnson. So you got Singh. The way the visual works is like you got Singh, and then everybody else is just kind of flat
Tiny.
behind it. And this all kind of started in the 80s in Canada. It's an even bigger problem in Canada. So in the 80s, there was a civil war in India. You had a lot of refugees fleeing to the west. Some settled in Canada, some settled in California, and a lot of them went into trucking, and they got really good at it. And then they started their own trucking companies, and then they started importing all their cousins. And that's kind of where we're seeing this problem here. So this wreck in Florida, the passenger in the vehicle in that truck, that was his brother.
Oh,
Yeah.
should have known that.
He's
should've known.
he's getting deported as well.
Oh man.
So
So how come he got arrested? Just
he was here illegally.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Okay.
so he was here illegally.
Both of
See,
them
I
are.
didn't get
Yeah,
the whole
yeah.
full
They're both
story,
being
man.
fast tracked for deportation. I think.
Man.
Blink on this person. The gentleman who caused the wreck. He's going to be serving out his
Oh, look
prison
at the chart. We
sentence,
have the
Right.
chart.
Okay.
which
right
is a
there.
life sentence
Oh,
before
my
they
God.
deport him.
Yeah.
Wow.
But this is becoming a huge problem where you have these like, ethnic
Cliques.
ethnic cohorts where if me or Q go on Facebook and we
Yeah.
see hiring CDL driver, Facebook page,
Yep.
and he and I try and call, they're gonna sniff out our accent immediately. Click.
Yep.
But if I call with a thick Indian accent or I pretend like I don't speak English, oh hey, text me on this Telegram group. We'll tell you about
Yeah,
our
yep.
whole shady operation.
For
So
sure.
they purposefully hire only within their in group. So
Right.
it's not even so much that there are too many trucking companies out there. The trucking companies that get started, they only hire within their own ethnic cohorts, and that's a problem because these guys.
Isn't that illegal?
Technically, it should. I think it is technically.
I mean, yeah, you can go like the racial discrimination route, but
Right.
again, who are you going to sue? The guy who owns the company isn't in
Right.
the U.S. He's overseas in a cubicle somewhere. They're so brazen with just how they just do not care.
I
and
actually
play by
met
the
a guy
rules.
on Facebook. He was looking for drivers. I started asking him questions. And he made it really weird, though, because he was like, oh, I'm looking for immigrant drivers only. And I
Why would
asked
he
him,
say
so
that?
why only immigrants? Because Americans are lazy and they complain too much. Immigrants are easier to exploit.
Well, so there's a guy that just went viral on TikTok last week where he found a bunch of these companies on a Facebook group, CDL jobs, and he called them. He said like, hey, I'd like to apply. And he talked with a real thick Indian accent, and they told him like, oh yeah, we'll edit your logs, we'll do this, we'll do that for you, and
I think I read about that. The code word was I need coffee, right?
that's a
Yeah.
totally separate conversation. We will
But, yeah.
that was Hope Trans. We will get to Hope Trans in a second.
Hope Trans, that was the guy. Where was it in Texas?
That was Dallas,
heavier
Texas.
guy that
Yeah,
fell
yeah.
asleep.
Yeah, we'll get to that in one sec. But yeah, these companies, they know that if they hire guys like me or Q and they say, hey, we need you to take this load 1,000 miles, it's got to be there in like
Right, you're
12
gonna
hours.
be like,
Don't piss off. We're not running like that. It's my CDL on the line here.
exactly.
But these other guys, they don't care because they're just like, if I complain, I'm deported. I'm fired. I'm gone.
And not even that, too. It's just some of these immigrants, because they're not well versed in English.
Yeah.
Or because they weren't raised here, they don't know their labor rights. They don't know that they can call FMCSA and say, I'm being forced dispatched to drive
What was that law?
unsafe equipment.
390.6 anti-coercion law.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
cannot
rule.
force you to
Anti-coercion
do
rule.
anything illegally.
Yeah,
And-
exactly.
and-
A lot of immigrants don't know that.
And
They
if the
don't-
person you're driving for is like your cousin
Mhm.
or your uncle who brought you here, there's like the whole honor culture thing along with that too. It's like my elders telling me I got to do this, I have to do it.
And the funny thing is, too, a lot of people think that the boss man who's exploiting immigrants is like this white guy in a business suit. No, in a lot of cases, they're immigrants themselves.
Oh, yeah.
Who are more assimilated to the American culture and system. But, nobody is better at exploiting somebody than somebody from your own culture.
Yeah, because
That is true.
they know
They know what you're scared of. They know how you think. They know the cultural taboos and everything.
And the need that
Yeah.
you have in your life because they probably once were in your shoes. They didn't know, oh yeah, they're not going to refuse. They need to go do this. Like,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so we were talking about Hope Trans earlier. That was, put this wreck in Florida aside. It's getting all the national attention now. Only 3 people died in this
Right.
that horrific crash, but Hope Trans is an even bigger. That to me is like is trucking's Chernobyl this year so far because there were so many things that had to go wrong for this wreck to happen. It was a postal load, so
Yes.
it's the U.S. mail
yes.
brokered to Covenant Transport out of Chattanooga, Tennessee. They didn't have a driver to cover that load, so they put it onto a subcontractor, which was this shady carrier, Hope Trans LLC. The scheme that they had at Hope Trans is any one of their drivers at any time could text their dispatcher, I need coffee, and they would put additional hours onto the ELD to keep driving. So this guy,
The official got arrested. It was official that got arrested from that company, right?
we don't even know. We don't
That's what I
know.
heard.
We've been digging into them because there is an arrest warrant out for them, but the corporate structure of how Hope Trans is laid out is like you got Hope Trans, and then you have the real owner of that company, and then there's just like this gigantic like tentacle farm. It just it goes on forever of
Oh,
like
wow.
this person's connected to this company's connected to this address is connected to 50 other companies. So it's a huge mess.
Cluster F.
But so had Covenant not dropped the ball on that load would have been delivered by one of their drivers. Instead, they gave it to Hope Trans. Hope Trans gave it to one of their drivers, this guy from Cuba, who shouldn't have been in the country legally. He immigrated into the U.S. from Spain. He went from Cuba to Spain, from Spain to the U.S. on a student visa, a 90-day student visa. Overstayed his visa, got a CDL. I'm sorry, Ron DeSantis. He got a CDL in Florida illegally. And if this does not bite Ron DeSantis in the ass, I don't know what will, because he's been shouting on the news, blaming California for this wreck in
Right.
Florida, saying, "Oh, Florida doesn't give out illegal CDLs." Yes, you do. They give out a lot. 160,000.
There was years ago. There was not necessarily with CDLs, but driver's license in general, down in the I think it was the Naples area, that they also had arrested like 4 people. And,
Yeah, that was-
and they had to rescind about something like almost 3,000 driver's licenses.
No, Florida.
Yeah.
Man, so I DM'd Ron DeSantis' communications director on Twitter. That's the great thing about Twitter these days. All these politicians that are on there, don't ever DM politicians. DM their staffers, because the staffers are the ones who are paying attention. So I wrote this guy like this 5-paragraph message saying like, tell the governor to shut up on this issue because he is putting he doesn't know it yet, but he's going to shoot himself in the foot. And I sent him a bunch of screenshots of the FMCSA MCIMS database. So if you go to Florida and you arrange the CDLs by date, you can see this gigantic. Every year it's like a couple thousand CDLs, and then 2020 it's just like 160,000 CDLs issued to new carriers. So I'm like,
Crazy.
You know, the
you guys got your own problems.
The Republicans are trying to politicize this and saying, look, the Democrats and the liberals are out of control.
Yeah, it's all states.
It's
all
all
sides.
the American Trucking Association.
Yeah.
They're the ones who go to every capital in every state and they lobby politicians and say, there's a truck driver shortage. Please, we got to lower the standards.
You know why they're doing that? Because they can't do it federally. A lot of lobbyists try to get things done federally. Like the insurance companies tried this a long time ago. They wanted to up the insurance, the minimum carrier, from 750,000 to $1 million or $1.5 million, right? And the federal government goes, no. Our data shows that about 80% of all trucking accidents are less than 750,000, right? So if we're not going to up it to $1.5 million for that maybe 2% or 1% of problems, right? So since they couldn't do it federally, what did they do? A lot of insurance companies went to like New Jersey, and they got New Jersey to do that for them.
Yeah.
In order to now you have companies going, well, how do I do this? Well, I'm an Ohio company. That doesn't apply to me. Well, yeah, it does. I mean, you can go through New Jersey without a problem, but if you stop in New Jersey, now you need that $1.5 million.
Ugh.
So just because your company's in Ohio doesn't mean you don't need that $1.5 million now. And what happens is states getting intertwined with federal jurisdiction, and that's not going to go very down. That's not going to end very well either.
Yeah, so back to Hope Trans. So this driver that they had on the load, he was a illegal immigrant from Cuba, and he gets this load. I want to say I forget the state that it was loaded from, but it was a 1,000-mile trip, so it's a team load. So he shows up at the mail plant as a solo driver,
Right.
and picks the load, gets the seal, gets his trip ticket, and then leaves. At every postal plant, the person on the dock that's loading or not loading the trucks, but checking every trip coming in and out is called an expediter. At any given time, an expediter on the dock, they can stop a load. If your truck comes in and you got mud flaps hanging off, or something doesn't look right, or you bring the wrong kind of equipment, they have a tool called a PS Form 5500. If there's any irregularities on this trip, you can write it up, and that contractor does not get paid, and that trip has to get covered by someone else. So there was all kinds of different ways that this trip should have been stopped. It wasn't.
So at the loading dock, he didn't do his job.
No.
He didn't check that it was a team.
The expediter didn't do his job. Covenant didn't do their job. Hope Trans was never doing their job
Right.
because they don't care. But so that's why I call this like a Chernobyl level event, because there were so many things that had to have gone wrong for those 4 people to tragically get killed in Texas.
But it got way less media attention. Why is that?
Because there was another high-profile accident right before that. There was the Amazon driver in Austin,
yeah.
Texas.
Yeah, I remember
So it's
that.
like every
and the was it Ukrainian driver up in what was it, Carolina, South Carolina.
Yeah, so
Yep.
it's like every month now, like clockwork.
Something's
There's some
happening.
high, and these are just these are the accidents that we know about. There are plenty of Amazon ones that we never hear about because the families are suing, and the judge will put a seal on the case. But so to the ATA, they're in trouble now because so you have the American Trucking Association and you have all the state trucking associations. To be in that organization, you're paying insane dues to the national, and their CEO Chris Spear is making I think 1.6 or 1.9 million dollars a year as a salary right now. So they're paying his salary, they're paying their dues, and they're paying all this lobbying money, and they have not had a win in Washington in like the last 6 or 7 years.
Hold on, they shut down the Pro Act, so that was a win for
Well,
them.
you know, but as far as like what their members want and what they're trying to pay for, they're not getting anything out of it.
So how are these people still paying?
I think part of it is just it's
Hope.
a good old boys network. In the South you got the good old boys, and that's kind of like what the ATA has become over the years. It's like if you and I think this is going with the Trump administration. So like with Biden administration, there is your ESG scores. You got to make sure you got to have X number of women and people of color in your cab and stuff. Trump administration just we're not caring about that anymore. So it's like, what the hell are we doing here? What are we paying for?
Right.
All these award ceremonies and press releases and studies that we're doing out here, we're spending all this money on. It's not getting us anything.
What is that?
So that is a chart from Danielle of.
Holy crap.
Yeah, she's a whiz with these charts here. Let me make sure I'm pulling up the right one here on my screen. Oops. So that is every state in the country. So Hardinger Singh is the name of the driver who wrecked in Florida.
Okay.
These are the number of trucking companies in every single state that are registered to somebody named Hardinger Singh.
No.
And that gigantic graph right in the middle, that's California.
Reminds me of the
God.
Dubai building, the
Yeah.
Burj Khalifa.
The Burj Khalifa. It's the Burj Khalifa of trucking. So, yeah, there are 117 trucking companies registered to Hardinger Singh. This is the first and last name. So if we went by just last names in California, Singh would be
Even higher.
tens of thousands.
Well, what?
And a lot of them are based out of a single zip code in Stockton, California.
That's crazy.
So my suggestion, whenever I'm like talking to like officials in the government and stuff, I tell them, go through your FMCSA database every single night that has violations. You can look up every single truck that's been written up for an ELP violation. If there's any trucking company out there today running right now that gets an ELP violation, they should be having feds kick down the doors the next day. And this ends within like a month. It says, for informational purposes only, there are 100 plus trucking companies registered to Hardinger Singh. This does not indicate it is the same person, as many have the same first and last name. In this screenshot, each row represents a different trucking company. This does not include drivers. It is nearly impossible to draw conclusions based solely on first and last names. And this list here, the spreadsheet here of names, it just keeps going on forever. This is just what she included in the screenshot. But yeah, when you look at the actual database itself, it's like 2 million lines total of everything.
that's
That's
crazy.
sad.
That's insane.
So with all of that being said, like, what do you think should happen? What do you think is going to happen with?
If that's if is a big question, because if I'm God Emperor Justin and I have like just full scorched earth on everything again, like I said, if I want to be cynical about this and I'm the Trump administration and if I'm Stephen Miller and if I'm as serious as I am publicly about wanting to implement these immigration policies, they need to get serious on this, because I don't think they really understand what they're dealing with. We're seeing raids on pot farms and raids on mechanic shops and stuff. And I'm like, these are soft targets, guys. A lot of these people, okay, fine. If the rule is they're not here legally and they got to go, sorry.
Right.
But
Right, yeah.
but if you're actually serious about this problem, they need to look into trucking.
You know what it is, Justin? I think they're scared to enforce trucking because the amount of immigrants and brown people that will get deported would make the government look really xenophobic.
Probably.
They don't
I
care.
think they're scared.
The amount of hatred and vitriol that they're getting from the opposition is already like at a fever pitch. I don't think they care, because they ran on this platform, they were elected on this platform, and this is what they're going for.
Yeah.
And my point to them is like, if you really are serious about this, you're barely scratching the surface of just how bad this goes. So like I said, if you wanted to get really serious about this, any trucking company that gets an English language proficiency violation, kick the doors down the next day. They're gone. I promise you. And not just that company, but as soon as you start getting serious on that enforcement, it's going to have a chilling effect across the entire industry. And these guys are going to shut down, self-deport. You know, they had the immigration had an app under the Biden administration to help like refugees coming forward. So when Trump came into office, they reprogrammed the app to like give everybody an alert saying, "Hey, you have 30 days to self-deport for 15. We'll give you $1,500 to leave the country."
I heard that.
And if you don't, we're coming for you. And I think that needs to happen with this English language and non-domicile CDL thing. Like, you have the names and addresses of all these people in the database. Send a letter to their house and say, you have the next 30 days to leave this country, or we're coming for you.
With the ELP mandate, okay, you have all these different types of actions. These lawyers are going to go after these companies, right? So, well, he shouldn't have been on this road in the first place. So you're negligent. Boom, nuclear verdict. Yeah. Nuclear verdict there.
Yeah,
a nuclear verdict here. Nuclear verdict there.
If people were sick of the billboard lawyers before,
right,
they're just getting started.
Exactly. So it's something that companies going to need to make sure this is not just a simple violation here. This could come back and bite them in the butt.
Big time.
Yeah. Well, and
a couple of years down the road.
If it's one of these carriers that say the owners aren't even based in the U.S., the address of the company is here, but they're overseas, those lawyers are going to go after the brokers instead, or they're going to have to go after shippers, because the rules are you cannot operate a truck if you can't speak English. And if we're seeing cases now where brokers are being held liable.
Well, they're just trying to cover their butts.
Yeah,
exactly. Well, and I'll tell you this: when I ran the warehouse, okay, I used to have hazmat loads. Right? And I would go and get the, let me see the CDL. Why do you want to see my CDL? How much do you have a hazmat endorsement? He goes, no other company does that. I don't care what other company does. This is what I'm doing, because I'm not going to give you a hazmat load if you don't have the hazmat endorsement.
Yeah, it's
right. And the boss came down and goes, oh, you're discriminating against the others. He goes, no. These truckers and these other loads don't need any endorsements whatsoever. This one needs an endorsement. So I want to make sure that I'm giving this load to somebody and if you don't want me, I'm gone.
We talked earlier on the previous show about high trust societies versus low trust societies, and when all these rules were created and implemented in the U.S., it was a high trust society, and I think why we're dealing with this mess right now is most of these drivers are brought in from low trust societies, operating for owners from low trust societies, and we're kind of dealing with the mess. And no, I promise you, nobody wants to live under a United States low trust society, because what that looks like is everybody gets face scanned, everybody gets fingerprinted, everybody has to go through Big Brother tech like we've never seen.
We don't want that.
So my advice is clean up your own house first before the hammer comes down, like we were saying with Rubio with the or pausing all these work visas.
Justin, I'm concerned though, because when I go into the ports, I say this with confidence, 4 out of 5 drivers don't speak English.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
I go into the port and I ask them for a plier to break off the zip ties. And they're like, what? It's a problem. I think that, it would have to be gradually, the ELP would have to gradually be implemented, because if it's done in one shot, it'll be a huge shock to the system.
You can DM Vice, or you can DM ICE on Twitter. And tell them all this.
Yeah,
yeah.
You really can.
They respond.
I'm thinking about applying for ICE.
I DM'd the Department of Homeland Security Twitter account, and they responded back.
Oh wow, that's cool.
I was like,
that's cool. You was kind of stoked about that.
That is the difference between the Trump administration and previous administrations. Even the first Trump administration, they're listening.
Okay,
they really. Whether you think they care or not, they're actually all they're listening to people on the ground. There are so many people in this current administration that are like part of this weird right-wing and online ecosystem that they understand how the power of social media works. Okay. So no matter what your politics are, if you want to get a hold of somebody, you can just reach out and email them. Find out their public email address, email them, and they'll say, "Hey, I'm free. I'm free on Tuesday."
So can I take a picture of a truck and say, "This driver, I spoke to him 5 minutes ago. He did not speak any English." Will they go after him?
I don't
That's
think it
going to
work-
be a
I don't
little
think it
hard to
work-
do. That's going to be a little hard to do. You know,
Yeah.
So
from a picture.
something like that, you would go to ice.gov and they have like a tip line there. Like there's like a form you fill out, so you can call in for individuals or for companies, and you could say take a picture of that truck, and you could say, hey, this trucking company is operating out of this address. They're hiring these drivers. They're violating ELP. You
Don't
know.
piss Richie off.
Richie
I'm
Richie won't do it.
But I'm saying that's the reality of living under a low trust society. Is
Yeah,
everybody's
yeah, yeah.
snitching on each other and making life absolute hell. You don't want to live in a society like that.
No.
Nah, that is like
We have to do better, as a community, as a trucking community, and we're gonna just end that conversation there because we ran out of time. But if you do have something to say, make sure to reach out, like, comment. Do you guys want to share your information where people can reach out to you if they would like to, discuss this even further or send more information or maybe need more information? Justin, on the topic,
You can always find me on Twitter at SuperTrucker.
Super Trucker. Do you want to share yours?
Join the Facebook group Pure Trucker NY/NJ on Facebook.
That's Richie. And Tab, would you like to share yours?
You can always contact me via my cell phone. I answer every phone call I get. So it's at 201-772-8515. My phone is ringing off 24 hours a day. It's not gonna increase.
Medication.
It's not gonna increase. It's not gonna increase. In fact, you may get pushback from the phone company. Goes too many lines running through this line at this time. So it doesn't matter.
So thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you for the information shared today. We definitely, again, need to pay attention and take
Mm-hmm.
action, in our duties and our responsibilities.
We gotta make trucking great again.
Yay.